Dido. A maid I wasn't really sure how to feel about when she first arrived. The dark-looking aura around her and honestly the doll were both pretty off-putting, and it made me a bit worried about her personality. Anyway, she kind of gave me a weird first impression that she has some kind of dark side to her. I guess kind of like how Rune is. Anyway, the more I have her as a secretary, the more I realized I think I had the wrong idea about her. I mean, look at this face. It's a very head-pettable situation she's putting herself in right now. So I'm not really sure if there's anything that actually was a problem to begin with.
他の子はご主人様に捨てられていませんよね。もしかして今そうなっていないだけ。つまり大道よりご主人様からの愛が多いってこと。大道、このまま負けるの嫌。
Emotional, damn it!
Man, this is the second Royal Navy ship with some kind of abandonment or loneliness aspect in their history. Despite all that, she's still a very kind character. Anyway, up next in our list of ships to cover is the main ship of the Dido class, HMS Dido herself. Now, we've already seen her sister Sirius, to which you can check her video here. Now, does Dido focus heavily on anti-air and carrier support like Sirius does? Or does she choose to stand out in her own way? Today, we're going to compare her against her sister as well as all of the SR light cruisers overall and see how well she fares. I did want to make a quick note here. Since Sirius is her sister, it won't be unusual to see them have similar stat lines. In a lot of cases, sister ships usually share similar stat lines, but may find themselves standing out based on their skills. Now, Dido starts with a health pool identical to Sirius, just 1 point shy of 3.4k. This health pool is about average overall, and combined with light armor means that she'll do okay at tanking most AP attacks as well as torpedoes. That said, HE ammo will definitely hurt, so some damage control might be needed if encountering a lot of enemies with this type of weaponry. Dido's evasion also ties Sirius, and while they may have similar tanking capabilities based on their stat lines, they'll do a bit better than most when it comes to dodging attacks. Last but not least, Dido manages to beat Sirius barely in anti-air. Even if the difference between the two of them is not much, this is still a pretty solid anti-air stat for her, and does have her competing against some of the Eagles even. Don't worry, Sandy, you're safe from losing to the maids. Just be careful in case any of them decide to become idols. I can't guarantee, right. Sandy, good luck. Good luck, Sandy. Overall though, Dido isn't straying from her sister stat-wise, which means that she very much follows being AA focused. However, does this trend follow her in the offensive stat line as well? Well, let's take a look. Firepower-wise, Dido actually beats Sirius by a tad bit, but this is still a bit below average. So, while she may have better surface damage than Sirius, she'll fall behind many of the other super rare light cruisers from the other factions. Much like her sister, Dido is a torpedo light cruiser, and also has a rather disappointing torpedo stat. It does beat Sirius at least, but it's still pretty low for a light cruiser. Much like I said in her sister's video, if you're looking for torpedo damage, you're in the wrong faction for that, as the Sakura Empire light cruisers, and even the destroyers, will provide that easily. Lastly, her reload does also barely beat Sirius, but the difference won't make a noticeable impact on her weapon cooldowns, as they'll be roughly the same speed as many of the other super rare light cruisers. In the end, the gear that she'll have equipped will be just about as fast on their cooldowns as they would be on any other light cruiser. Moving on to her equipment. Now, because she is a torpedo light cruiser, she gets an additional torpedo mount, much like her sister Sirius. This does mean that she'll fall behind in gun damage with any cruisers that's decided to double up their main gun mount, such as that good handful of the Eagles. With her one main gun though, Dido does have an efficiency of 140%. Which does beat her sister a bit and is better than most of the light cruisers overall. So she'll have a slight advantage against other torpedo light cruisers with this particular efficiency. I should quickly mention that she is also capable of equipping a DD gun instead of a CL gun, which can help make a bit of a difference in her DPS between the barrage spam and the damage output, as DD guns have a much better rate of fire. Moving on, Dido's torpedo efficiency follows much like Sirius's does, sitting at 130%. With her low torpedo stat, she's not gonna do well on delivering torpedo damage. However, it's not hard to find someone to accommodate for that if necessary. Lastly, her anti-air gun efficiency sits at 135%, which does beat Sirius a bit. and remains above average overall. This just further cements her as an AA focused light cruiser given her solid anti-air stat and even this efficiency. All things considered, Dido follows Sirius as an AA focused light cruiser with both a good AA stat and efficiency. While not incredibly tanky compared to the Ironblood, she still has a good amount of survivability to work with. Now, if we do take a second here to look at her stats at level 120 and 125, we do see a similar jump in health, anti-air, and evasion. This does help with survival, but does very little to help her offense side as her torpedo, firepower, and reload don't see a major jump in stats. She's not too far from Sirius. However, Dido's skills could be what offer a unique twist to your fleet, so let's see how this goes. Dido's first skill is Dido's Aria, which has two main things. The first is that any and all Dido class ships will get up to a 15% boost in their firepower, torpedo, and anti-air as long as they're in the same fleet. The second part of this particular skill occurs at the start of battle, where Dido gets up to a 15% boost in anti-air and evasion for 30 seconds. Now there's a handful of Dido class ship girls that will benefit from this, and it can help them with their gun damage. I can't really say the same for their torpedo damage considering the current trends that they've had with their torpedo stat efficiencies. The AA buff for Dido herself is definitely nice, as it is her strongest part of her, and definitely will help her provide more anti-air support when it's needed. Now her second skill is for the Queen, which also does two main things. The first part is that for every Royal Navy ship in your fleet, Dido will increase her firepower, anti-air, and reload by up to 6%. Now this can only be stacked 4 times, giving a maximum bonus of 24%. The other part of this particular skill is that if she's sorted with Queen Elizabeth, Dido increases Queen Elizabeth's firepower, reload, evasion, and accuracy by up to 7%, and also increases her main gun crit rate by up to 20%. The buffs for Queen Elizabeth are definitely nice, but honestly, can we have a retrofit for her? Please! You have no idea how many people have been waiting for that. I don't think anyone's gonna disagree on that. Now the skill does give a good amount of boost, but I'm just saying we could fix some of the core part of the problem here. Anyway, on another note, the buffs Dido gets with the other Royal Navy ships does help her, and can stack with the first skill. That said though, this skill requires more Royal Navy ships to really make use of it, so that might be a deal breaker to a degree if you don't have a lot of level Royal Navy ship girls to begin with. I do want to quickly talk about the two skills though. Her first skill does want Dido class to make as much use of it as possible, while her second skill just wants Royal Navy in general. While a Royal Navy backline can be pretty powerful to work with, Royal Navy Vanguard ships aren't the most amazing overall. There's a handful, but most of them kinda are okay. The Dido class itself is great for anti-air power, but not the best for damage output compared to others. What seems to be the better overall option would be to just work with other Royal Navy Vanguards outside of the Dido class, like London for example, and still bring in Queen Elizabeth, and even a handful of other backliners for the rest of the skills. This could allow a good front tank from other factions, since Royal Navy Vanguards are a bit squishy. No, not in that sense, you degenerates. In the end, Dido follows similarly to her sister Sirius in stat line, but her skills go more towards buffing her and her sisters and even Queen Elizabeth. The downside to this particular setup is that it is a heavy promotion of a Royal Navy faction fleet, which can be difficult for those of you who aren't too invested in Royal Navy, or you're an Ironblood main. No! Anyway, Dido's first skill is okay to have, but struggles due to how the Dido class ships are so far with damage. The second skill is great for Queen Elizabeth, but at that point you'd have to run a full or almost full Royal Navy backline, since Queen Elizabeth is a huge faction buffer thanks to her skill. Anyway, is Dido a mob or a boss fleet vanguard? Well, that's also going to depend on your team. Royal Navy can muster some solid backliners for boss takedowns, with characters like Monarch, Vanguard, Howl, Warspite, Ark Royal, even Formidable being able to create a pretty solid team for that. That said, you've also got a handful of strong ships for mobs like Perseus and Unicorn, some of the best healers that they've got. There's also a very small group of vanguards that you could work with, like London, Leander, Ajax, Exeter, and of course there's the priority and decisive rarity type ships in the research section. So her usability would ultimately depend on how you build your specific fleet and what role it has. That said, boss fleets might be a bit punishing for her depending on the enemy and how her survival is, so mob fleets might be a bit safer in the end overall. All in all though, she can be of quite some use, even if it is not as much as some of her newer allies. Just don't abandon her. She doesn't take it too well. And that will be all for Dido. Hope you enjoyed this and that it will help you in your future endeavors. Up next is Neptune, aka the head nod maid herself. So look forward to her video when it comes out. Whether you're a regular viewer or a patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching and I'll see you all again real soon.